few come in, and then give it about 5 people to come in, and then we'll start the speech.
We're dialing up 1%.
Good evening, and welcome to Senator Dick Moore's live telephone town hall. My name is Deborah Keefe of Webster, and I'll be moderating this evening's call. Thanks for taking the time to join us tonight, and we hope you find this call informative. In just a moment, I am going to turn the phone over to Senator Dick Moore for some opening remarks. But first, let me explain the format for tonight's call. If you would like to ask a question, simply press 0 on your phone, and you'll be connected with a volunteer who will take your question and make sure you get into the queue to speak directly with Senator Moore. As I'm sure the Senator will explain, this is an opportunity for him to speak one-on-one with us, his constituents, and answer any questions you have about his work as well as his campaign. As many of you have noticed, the Senator and Joanne seem to be everywhere and at all of our local events, festivals, and celebrations. Tonight's call does not replace that, but instead gives us the chance to talk to him directly. This is a live question and answer session. By pressing 0 on your phone, you will have the chance to speak directly with Senator Moore. I ask that your questions are short and to the point. Also at this time, throughout the call, press 1 on your phone if Senator Moore can count on your support in November. We would like to get through as many questions as possible during the call, but we may not be able to get to everybody. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, you can simply press 0 at any time throughout the call. And if the Senator can count on your support, press 1. If we don't get to you, you will still have the opportunity to get your question to the Senator, which I'll explain at the end of our call this evening. Again, I am Deborah Keefe of Webster, and I am excited to serve as your moderator this evening. Senator, welcome this evening, and I will turn the mic over to you.
Thank you, Debbie. First of all, I want to thank everyone for taking time from your busy schedule to join me in this telephone town hall. Tonight, I want to briefly share with you some information about myself, my vision for the future of our region, growing good jobs and helping middle-class families make ends meet, tackling health care costs, promoting education and community safety, and how I intend to continue delivering on those goals. More importantly, I want to hear from you about the issues and concerns that matter most to you and your family. After all, I've found that our district is best represented in the Senate when they have a senator who listens and leads. I've devoted my life to helping people. After graduating from Hopedale High School, I started my career as a teacher and college administrator. Just as my father worked at the Draper plant in Hopedale, and my mother, a cafeteria worker in the local school system, worked hard to give me a future, I was motivated to help young people become educated for a successful career and become active, engaged citizens. My goal of helping not only our youth, but people of all ages has been a hallmark of my time in public service. As a selectman in Hopedale, I was proud to tackle the challenges that my hometown faced. I was even prouder as a state representative to promote our region through efforts like establishing the Blackstone River and Canal Heritage State Park and reconstructing Route 146. After serving President Clinton as a leader in his administration, I was eager to devote my energies to the people of our region in the Senate. To me, serving as your senator has been and continues to be about having a vision for what I can do to help our region and the Commonwealth become even better. It's also about having the willingness, skills, and leadership to get that agenda accomplished. We've accomplished a lot, but there is more that needs to be done. I've worked to help small businesses grow and create jobs. I know there are more jobs needed, and I will continue to work to help to bring them to our region in advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and other fields. I've worked to expand access to high-quality, affordable health care for all in our state, and to expand access locally by assisting Milford Regional Medical Center and Harrington Memorial Hospital of Southbridge, helping gain a $1.5 million state grant to modernize the Hubbard Hospital Emergency Department in Webster, and leading the effort to bring community health centers to Milford and Southbridge. There's much more we can do, not only to expand access and deliver local services, but control costs through health, wellness, and technology. I've worked to bring more education and training opportunities to our region by leading efforts to bring Quinsigamond Community College to Southbridge and obtaining seed funds to establish an advanced manufacturing technology center in Southbridge and a branch of Quinsigamond in the Blackstone Valley. I've also promoted efforts for affordable college education for our youth. This all needs to be a continued priority if we're going to have a prepared workforce for the future. I've worked to make our communities safer by requiring those who seek licenses to drive to have Social Security numbers and be legal residents. And I've worked to make sure that those who receive public benefits are actually entitled to them and are moving from welfare to the workforce in a reasonable time. You can count on me to remain a strong and effective voice against illegal immigration and waste, fraud, and abuse. I also won't give up on efforts to tackle the drug abuse epidemic throughout our region and the state and the nation. In short, we need to continue making our region an attractive place to connect business, help small businesses thrive, grow good jobs, and ultimately support the middle class. We need to continue battling rising healthcare costs. Our kids deserve a quality learning environment, and teachers need tools and support to help students learn. We must keep our communities safe and our government efficient and accountable. I know that I have more to contribute to promote the quality of life and continue getting results for the people of our region. I also have the ability to get that work accomplished, just as I have through my service. I am just as excited about the opportunity to continue to serve the people of our area as I ever have. You can count on my commitment to continue working towards addressing each and every one of these areas over the next 2 years. But again, that begins with listening, and that's actually what I'd like to do tonight, and then actually leading to find solutions. So I want to turn this back over to Debbie for any questions.
Okay, as I remind everyone, this is a live question and answer session with Senator Dick Moore. Please press 0 if you would like to go into the queue and ask a question of the Senator directly, and press 1 if you would like to show support of the Senator. We have our first caller, Pauline Gionso of Milford. I will turn her over to you, Senator Moore. Her question is, why does the state allow younger people into elderly homes? Pauline?
Hello?
Yes, Pauline?
Yes. Okay, I'm living in an elderly project. I'm handicapped, and why is it that we have to actually put up with the younger people living in here? They're drug-related, they're alcoholic-related. Why do we have to put up with that type of people? Do you know how many times the ambulances come here to take some of these people out of here for overnight or whatever? I wish you could do something for us and the elderly at these elderly projects.
Thank you very much. Basically, what they've allowed to have happen in the housing is people who are supposed to be on disabilities. Now, alcoholism and drug addiction are technically disabilities. But I think we've made a mistake in mixing the populations with the younger people.
Absolutely.
And what we need to do is we need to actually find some way to house them, the folks that do have those disabilities, and make sure that there is someone there to provide appropriate supervision and treatment. I agree with you. I think we've gone down the wrong road in that regard to try to provide housing. We're trying to save money by not constructing new housing, but I think it's hurt the quality of life of the people who deserve the elderly housing particularly, because they've worked hard all their lives and deserve to stay in the community and be part of that and not have that disruption. So I will make that a priority for the coming year to see if we can't find a better way to do that, to find an appropriate housing, but housing with the right kind of treatment for the folks that are living there, not to just pour them into the general population.
Okay, the next call we have is from Joan Giotis of Webster. Joan, you're on the air.
Hi, Dick. Joan Giotis. Thank you again for the years that you have committed and served the town of Webster in the best capacity that we could ever ask. I'm just asking tonight if you can get that article for the boat for 40 feet out of committee and onto a vote. What do you think?
I'd like very much to do that. Unfortunately, it's in a House committee. It's in the House Ways and Means Committee. I was able to get it out of the Joint Committee by talking to the two chairs, the House and Senate chair. It's a little tougher for someone who's in the Senate to reach into the House or the other way around because they're independent branches, basically. But I'll continue to work on that. I think that's certainly the people are entitled to a vote. And what that bill, as it's been reported by the committee, and assuming it stays that way, it ultimately would allow the community to set the rules, but there would be a ballot vote for the community, so that if they are opposed to the vote or opposed to or would like to have better regulation, they would be able to vote on that. And if they choose not to, they could certainly let us know that too. I think that's the first step. If it doesn't get out of committee, I think we need to continue to talk to the Secretary of Environmental Affairs about whether there could be some general regulations. Now, the downside of that is that they would be regulating all boats, not just the big boat that's waiting on the shores. So it is important that we think about what kind of input we'd like to have, what kind of rules ought to be, and that would be fair to everybody before that happens. So right now, we still are in session. We're in informal sessions. It is possible to ask the committee to report it out. However, because of the rules of the House and the Senate, for that matter, any one member can object to a bill moving forward. So we're in a rather difficult period of time to be sure that we can move it. Even if it gets reported out of committee, any one member, and they don't have to have a reason, really. And this is not particularly unique to this particular situation. It's true for every bill that comes out at this stage. It's unanimous consent. So if someone wants to disrupt things, they can do that, unfortunately, rather easily. But we'll continue to work on it and see what we can do.
All right, thank you for your call. I remind everyone this is a live question and answer session, and press 0 on your phone if you would like to have a chance to speak directly with Senator Moore. Next on the phone is Tony Harvey from Blackstone. Tony, go ahead.
Good evening, Senator Moore.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. I'm actually calling first to thank you for your years of service, but I received something in the mail today with you and your opponent. So what brings me to my question tonight is, what will we lose as people in your district if your opponent gets into office? What are we going to lose if you're not here to serve us?
Thank you. I think people, if they look at what I've been able to do as both first and state representative, now as a senator, and I did that. If you want to compare my terms with my opponents, the first two terms in the House. In that first term, I was able to, working with the senator at the time, Senator Kelly, get $1 million in the state budget to build and acquire the land for the Blackstone River and Canal Heritage State Park, which has been really very beneficial to communities in Blackstone and Millville, Uxbridge, Northbridge, and Sutton, providing some recreational opportunities, some environmental protection for the wildlife in that area. And the other steps in my first two terms there was you might recall, the area Route 122 in Millville was known as Dead Man's Curve. It was a very sharp reverse S curve with a lot of ledge on one side, so the view was obstructed, and people had gotten killed. In fact, there was a young child that was killed there just before we were able to launch the effort to rebuild that road, and now it's a nice straightaway. And the Millville Police, I know, are happy with it because they're collecting revenue with the radar along there. But the other area was Route 146. Was a 1950 road in 1980 traffic, and went from sometimes 2 lanes to 3 to 4 lanes and back to 2. very erratic, and it was the scene of many fatalities and many accidents. And I actually, in my second term, I chaired a subcommittee of the post-audit committee, and we held hearings, and we got the administration at the time, the King administration, and then the Dukakis administration to pledge to put the money together to rebuild that road, and it's now a much safer road, and it's become kind of an economic lifeline for the region because it's now attracting businesses along that road. And those are things that I continue to do in more recent years to help develop, and we're doing now the Blackstone River Bikeway or Greenway. Blackstone is seeing a number of its bridges rebuilt, so people from a recreational standpoint can use that. That will bring businesses into town like bike rental agencies and food businesses and others. They will help to create jobs, and that's really, I've had a pretty good track record of creating jobs and helping businesses in the region. I haven't seen anything on the other side that's been a priority for my opponent.
Thank you, Senator. I remind you, press 0 if you wish to be in the queue to ask the Senator a direct question. There are a number of people in the queue, so we will move along. The next call is from Don Peace from Southbridge. Don, go ahead and speak to the Senator.
Good evening, Senator Moore. It's an honor and privilege to have gotten a phone call from you, and I want to thank you for all that you do for your district. I want to thank you for what you do at the holidays for our senior citizens and the veterans that you never want anyone to know, and you're just truly great.
Thank you.
My question to you is, in order to make good money, a lot of people from towns like Southbridge have to work out towards Westboro and Framingham, and within the past year, the Mass Turnpike trying to get home has just been a nightmare. During the winter, it goes unplowed from Millbury to Sturbridge, and I was wondering if you would ever consider entering a bill so that we could have an additional exit, possibly in Charlton, for the people of Southbridge, Charlton, Dudley, and Oxford to get off before we have to sit in the traffic of Connecticut and New York. It's just on a Friday, and I'm sure you run into the same thing coming home from the State House.
Tell me about it. When there's no traffic, I can make the trip in about an hour. And usually it's closer to 2 hours each way with the traffic the way it's been. That's certainly something we'll look at, and I'll see, I don't know if it needs a bill. It would probably be something in the transportation bond issue or in the budget, because there's obviously a cost involved. The first would be some kind of a survey to see if it's feasible. It's difficult to build new roads these days because of environmental regulations, but it's certainly, I think you'd probably want to have it at, 169, perhaps would be the route that would connect, or 131. I'm not sure which would the route number, looking at what comes up by Route 20 there, but the Turnpike does come very close in several spots to Route 20, so it might be able to find a spot that's not going to be overly expensive and take a lot of environmental study, but it would take some time to do it. Any time for a new road, you'd need to do an environmental study to make sure that we're not affecting any endangered species or any of that sort of thing. But I think there's enough distance. The big thing with the Turnpike is you have to have enough distance to slow down or to speed up if you're getting on and off the road. So looking for the right spot, but it certainly could be surveyed and be part of we now have actually a transportation planning group as part of the transportation reform bill. So we could get that as a criteria for them to look at and see if we could at least provide some benefit, because I know Sturbridge does back up quite a bit, especially on weekends coming in. So that's a good suggestion, and I'll put it in our list of projects for the coming term.
Thank you, Senator. The next person we have on the line is Delton from Bellingham. Go ahead, Delton.
Hi. I just wanted to thank your office. You've been helping my family out. We were having a terrible problem getting a death certificate for my daughter, and we can't claim our life insurance, and we're on Social Security, and we've been trying to pay the bill off until it's settled. But a guy in your office named Zach has really helped me out a lot, and it's not straightened out yet, but he has really been trying to help us, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, and I'll check with Zach on just where that is. I had a similar call, maybe a few weeks ago, and part of it was the medical examiner's office was backed up for issuing their death certificates for the cause of death, and we needed to have them pull it out of the pile and do that. So we'll see if we can't get that resolved. It's something that a family should not have to go through that when you're going through the loss of a loved one.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. The next call is from Francis Parent from Milford. Francis, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. We ended up with John Joyce from Dudley.
Yes. Senator, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad for an old man. They changed the drug law, so you have to pick up your pain prescriptions every 30 days. And I wish they'd change it back to 90 days, because I get all my drugs at 90 days, and I have to run after this other one every 30 days. You know, it's a painkiller, you know.
Yeah, I think the reason for that was that a lot of people were getting prescriptions for more pills than they needed, and in your case may not be that situation. But for instance, I went to the dentist last year and for an extraction, and the dentist gave me a 30-day prescription. Well, I didn't need it. I didn't take it at all because aspirin basically was enough. But the 90 days. Sometimes people break in and steal the drugs from the elderly person or the person who has the painkiller, and so the design was to keep a closer watch on it so that the painkillers didn't get diverted, as unfortunately has been happening far too regularly. Or sometimes people sell them to somebody else and to make a little extra money, and that's of course not legal, but it does happen. And as a result, people get addicted, and then we have some serious issues with their family and ultimately with the community. But I'll talk to the folks that drafted that and see if there's any way to grant exceptions to those people who have a legitimate need for that length of supply.
Thank you, Senator. I apologize, Francis Parent. Please ask your question to the Senator.
Okay. Hi, Dick. It's Marie.
Hey, how are you?
Apparently, I'm fine. Apparently, they thought it was my husband who was cued in. But this is Marie Parenti. As you know, Dick, I served 26 years in the legislature, and you had my back every one of those years. And I would really like to thank you publicly for being a great partner. And together, we accomplished much, over 200 bills, I believe, of every nature, and you were always there, and I was appreciative, and still am. And I did have sort of a question and a suggestion. As you know, Milford has been affected greatly by the influx of what we call the new arrivals, and in many cases they are undocumented. And they've had a great impact in our hospital services, our school services, and our public services. And I was wondering if there was some way that you could, during budget deliberations, think of some way to help the towns who have this, who are experiencing this great influx. For, say, in Milford, the estimate is 3,000. And in the same way that in public housing, towns with 10% or more would be eligible for certain programs. I was wondering if there was some way that the budget, there would be some kind of an allowance in the budget based on the numbers of people that are so-called new arrivals, so that the towns can deal financially with the problems that occur, you know, in the schools. Children register in the schools, they're at the hospitals, they're seeking medical care, they're seeking benefits, and there just has to be a way to help the towns, address this. It's you want to welcome new arrivals, but it's just a question of whether or not the towns, particular towns, can handle the great numbers, while other towns are not being affected by such numbers.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Okay, and I think that's a good suggestion to look at that. Certainly, we're going through a revision of the formula for Chapter 70 of the Public Education Aid, and that would be one place to look at that, because it costs today, I'm told, about $13,000 a year to educate a student. And since we're going to be looking at what are the criteria for providing aid, you're talking about young people who may well have language issues that need additional attention, and so obviously some greater help with the teachers' aides and English as a second language teachers and other things like that. So there is an additional cost. Unfortunately, we've tried to limit those costs, but they're basically a federal law, and we're dealing with a failure of the federal government to control our borders and to deal with the folks who do come here without or to overstay their visa. Recently, I contacted our congressional delegation, Congressman Kennedy and McGovern and Neal and the two senators, Warren and Markey, and suggested that to those that we know of that are here, and I was told by Health and Human Services that there were 737 unaccompanied kids before we had all this issue with the bases that the governor got involved in. And the federal government, since they let them come here and they released them into the community, seems to me should be responsible just as they are when they have somebody in detention awaiting hearing. So I think it's a combination of asking the federal government, if you can't solve the problem, at least provide us with some additional financial help just to address it, whether it's in healthcare or education or public safety. And we should look at in the formula, as we reconstruct the formula for local aid, to see if we can't be more helpful with that. And it might help us at least to deal with the situation, although it still doesn't solve the problem totally, because that's got to be solved by the federal government.
Okay, I'd like to remind everyone that is joining us that this is a live question and answer session with Senator Dick Moore. By pressing 0 on your phone, you will have the opportunity and chance to speak with the senator directly. Also, please press 1 if Senator Moore can count on your support. The next person we have, and I thank everyone for their patience, is Margaret Carroll of Millville. Margaret, you're on the line.
Good evening, Senator Moore. It's so good to have this opportunity to speak with you.
Nice to talk to you again, Margaret.
Okay, I know I'm speaking for many others of my senior group in Millville and other residents to wish you the best of luck in your campaign, but also to speak just of how generous with your time you have been with our community. I know that I saw you most recently at the dedication of our senior center van. You were also there when we dedicated the senior center.
And I was very pleased in both cases to be able to help the people in Millville, both of the helping with some of the funding and other arrangements for the center itself, and then I strongly recommended and supported the state support for the van, which I know is needed. We don't have a lot of public transportation in the area, and it's important for seniors especially to be able to get to doctor's appointments or groceries or whatever it may be. So I was very happy to support those projects.
Yes, it was to see that little ceremony take place. And then I can't speak to you without speaking of our Memorial Days. I don't know whether you'd like to say how many years you have come to Millville for our Memorial Day parade and ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park. And also, I appreciate the great honor you have shown our veterans in the past. Most recently, now, the new Wreaths Across America program that you're involved in the middle of winter with snow up to our ankles. You've been very, very generous with your time, Senator.
Well, I think one of our highest duties as citizens is to support those who've stepped up and put their lives on the line for our freedom and our safety. This might be an appropriate time to just also express condolences to the people of Millville in particular, and certainly to the McNamara family for the loss of John McNamara. He was a terrific citizen when he came back from the war, and a terrific soldier, a Marine, I should say, during World War II. I know he's had a lot of health issues in recent years, but it certainly is a loss to the community ultimately. And someone who I know you knew quite well, and we express our condolences to Evelyn and to the McNamara family.
Okay, thank you. We now have Mary Sugarow of East Douglas. Mary, you have a question for the senator? Mary?
Hi there, Senator.
Oh, all right.
How are you?
I changed my sex. It's Jim.
I apologize.
It's Jim Sugarow.
Yes, Jim. Nice to hear from you.
Senator, I just want to say that I started in politics before you were born. I was in the United States Congress in 1943, serving as a page on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm.
Most people I worked with were Republicans. They certainly were not the kind we got today. Your opponent, as far as I can see, in 2 years he's been there, he seems to have only one word. He can't get a three-letter word. So the only word he seems to know is no, 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 for every program that seems to come up. You are certainly very positive and have done a tremendous amount, not only for students and us elderly, but for the entire communities. I want to thank you very much for the service you have rendered and hope that you can serve many, many more years.
Thank you, Jim. And you, in order to make things happen and actually to get off the status quo and have change and progress, you have to vote yes. Many times in order to do that. And for instance, I've always advocated, having been a local official in Hopedale, in both the House and Senate, I always advocated for increasing local aid as much as we could possibly do. And that's great. And advocate is important, but you also then have to vote for it too, not just speak for it. And I'm happy to do that, and I want to continue to do that for the towns that we represent.
Yes, thank you. Again, this is a live session with Senator Dick Moore. If you would like to get into the queue to ask the senator a direct question, please press 0. And if you would like to assist in the senator on his campaign, press 1 on your telephone. Thank you for your patience for the people that are on hold. I'm next going to Ann Tobia of Southbridge. Ann, please ask your question.
Oh, hello, Senator. My question was that we're getting an import of people from other countries, well, not countries, but over the border and so forth. And it seems they're not employed. There's other people here, people that are not employed. Now, what do they have to do to become employed? Do they have to?
They have to be here legally, primarily, or at least, and that doesn't necessarily mean being a citizen, but it means coming and having a visa. There's one of the visas is a work visa. They call it the green card, and you need to have that. And when people have a green card and are able to legally work, they then appropriately pay taxes and are fully part of the community. Unfortunately, a number of the folks who have come here have either overstayed a tourist visa or whatever the visa they came for, and or have crossed the border without permission. And so it's really and it has an impact on our economy because many times an employer will hire them, pay them cash rather than take out any taxes. They pay them by doing that. They know they can get away with paying them below minimum wage, and they take advantage of them by threatening to turn them into immigration. So it's not good for the individual who's come here in the long run, and it's certainly not good for the community. So we need to try to encourage and keep getting the federal government to fix the immigration system. That's the last 20 years maybe it's really fallen down, and it needs to be looked at again in Congress if they get around to doing anything. Should make that a priority.
Okay, thank you. The next person on the line is Diane from Oxford. Diane, you have a question for the senator?
Hi, Senator Moore. Diane Kaminsky from Oxford. I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for all your years of service that you and I worked together with, especially in health care issues. I was a former Shine counselor for the Webster, Dudley, and Oxford area. And my question is, I'd love to see Prescription Advantage instituted again as it was, because I think people need more help with their prescription coverage now more than ever. And I know I've become a senior, and I'm in that category. So I'd like to know if there's some particular way that could be worked on, maybe on a state level, trying to reinstitute the Prescription Advantage program as it was.
Actually, I just was meeting yesterday with a company that offers a discount for drugs that people have. It's called FamilyWise. It's a national program, most of which they've done by working with United Way, but there's no reason why they couldn't do it with other groups as well. Apparently, they told me that CVS and Brooks and some of the other Rite Aid and some of the other major pharmacies have already accepted the card, and they've worked out an arrangement with the pharmacy benefit companies, the ones that really sell the discounted drugs to the pharmacies, to arrange for discounts. So I'm going to continue. I have to do a little more research on it to make sure that enough of the pharmacies in our area have been accepting the card, but it can be a very important savings. I was involved in setting up Prescription Advantage, and so we'll take another look at that to see. Right now it's been mostly used for seniors who are trying to, and they're in Part D, but they have that so-called donut hole, which will be closing by 2020, but it's still an issue. And some of the drugs, even the generic drugs, have shot way up in price. So we need to also continue to look at some of the pharmaceutical companies and their practices as to whether the prices are in fact fair and recovering their investment, but also not gouging the public as well. So, but it's a good suggestion. We'll take another look at that program, and I will continue to look at this prescription savings card that this organization has suggested to me. It might be a way to help a number of our folks that have unlimited income.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, just a reminder that we do have some space in the queue, so press 0 if you would like to ask the Senator a direct question. Next person on the line is April from Webster. April, you have a question for the Senator? April?
How do I check this message?
April?
How do I get this message? Hello?
Yes, April, do you have a question for the Senator?
Oh, no, this is Ann. I'm so sorry. Hi, thank you for taking my call. My question is, I remember chatting with you probably about a year ago when Obamacare was just kind of taking place. You were pretty excited about it, and I'm wondering your thoughts about how that played out and how it's working for most of us.
Well, we actually had, I think, a very good program at the state level that I was very much involved in helping to construct back in 2006, and we've been continuing to work on improvements to that. I think the federal plan has some benefits, but there are also some areas that the Congress and the President need to work on to try to fix, because it's not working as well as I'd like to see it. It's still better than having no insurance, but I don't think we've achieved the cost savings yet that I'd like to see in that program. There are some parts of the program that are working well with the prevention issues with seniors, helping getting them their vaccinations and their annual physicals. But I hope that we can fix the federal health plan, of course, sometimes called Obamacare. It's interesting that the public, when you mention Obamacare, basically there's a negative reaction. When you call the Affordable Health Plan, it's a positive reaction, and it's actually the same bill. But I think that most people would like the services, and they'd like to have it fixed so that it's more equally accessible by the public in general to get the benefits of that plan. We certainly need good health care in this country.
Okay, the next person in the queue is Brian Kelly from Milford. Brian, thank you for your patience. You have a question for the Senator.
Oh, yes, Senator Moore. It was wonderful to see the caring for us in Boston. I went to that.
Thanks, Brian.
But there's no, see, I'm vision impaired, and there's a lot of us like me in Milford. We need transportation.
I agree. Yeah, our region has never had a lot of great transportation. We've done more for seniors, but even that isn't perfect. But any public transportation in the country has to be subsidized, so you have to have enough people willing to use it to do their part in order for it to be worthwhile. I would like to see us try to pick up a program that seems to be active in Boston. It's called The Ride. It's actually run by the MBTA. Milford does, I believe, pay an assessment for MBTA services. Now they have they have the Metro West Transit Authority, I believe it's called, that's providing services. And I think I know Representative Fernandez has been very active in meeting with them and trying to encourage them to expand services, and I'll be happy to work with him on that to try to get some more public transportation for people to get to doctor's appointments that might be in Worcester or Framingham or occasionally even in Boston, and certainly to the market and whatever else is needed. But I recognize it's a real drawback for people, especially on fixed incomes throughout the state and certainly in our area. So I'll be happy to put that on our agenda.
Okay, we're going to take our last question this evening, but I do want to remind people to press 1 on your phone if Senator Moore can count on your support in November. We now have Wayne Lawson from Webster. Wayne, you have a question for the Senator?
Hello, Senator Moore.
Wayne, how are you?
I'm all right, Senator. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
How are you doing? Okay, first of all, for me personally, I'm on Medicare. I have been since I retired 7 years ago. And the health insurance works great for me. I'd like to see something like it on a federal level, but I don't have any problem at all with health insurance. I find it very affordable for me, and the insurance company and Medicare work great together. The next thing I'd just like to mention is what would be wrong with the state of Massachusetts saying to everybody, if you haven't worked and lived in this state for at least 5 years paying taxes, you can't collect benefits. Go back home and get them.
Well, of course, once they're here, there's not a residency limit for anything, really, other than maybe running for public office. You have to have lived here a certain length of time to do that. But I think there's some stories, I don't know if you've followed it in the Worcester paper recently, about Ray Mariano attempting to get residents of public housing to do some kind of work, whether it's work for funding or work for the community improvements, and I think we should look more at that issue. We do have a requirement, I'd like to see it enforced better, for welfare or transitional assistance, as it's now called. And it's called transitional assistance for a reason, and that is that we're not supposed to be on welfare forever. We're supposed to be on there to help get back on our feet, and then either get an education to get a job or get a job directly if we're qualified. So I think we need to look at programs where there are major public benefits provided as to make sure that the people are helping the community, whether it's helping to pay for them by getting a real job or helping the community to be improved by working as volunteers, whether it's cleaning up the community or working in some way to make it a better community for all of us. So that's something that we should be looking at and seeing whether we can legally do it. Some groups try to say, well, you're forcing people to work. Well, we don't force them to take the benefits, but they're happy to do that. So we should look at that a little bit more thoroughly and then see if we can't come up with a better plan that's fair to everybody and fair to society.
All right, at this point I would like to thank everyone who called in this evening and asked the Senator questions directly. If you are still in the queue, you have the opportunity to press 1 and connect to leave a message, or it will indicate that you are supporting Senator Moore in November. Senator, I would like to thank you for taking the time to speak with us tonight and for making this service available to us. That's all for this evening. If we did not get to your question, please stay on the line because in just a moment you'll have the opportunity to leave a voicemail directly for Senator Moore with your questions. That concludes our call, and again, thank you for joining us this evening, and please remember to vote on November 4th. I will now turn over the microphone to Senator Moore for his closing remarks.
Thank you, Deb, and I thank you for moderating the program. This is our our first time with this particular use of technology, and I think it's been very effective, and we had a lot of good calls and a lot of good suggestions for how to improve our area or our state. And I look forward to doing this again. I think it's a good way to, on top of all of the other things we do with office hours and coffee hours and attending, as you mentioned earlier, just about every event we can get to in the district, so that we're available for people to talk to us, and whether on a kind of an informal basis. But this is just another step, and it's a way people don't even have to leave their home to do that, to make the call and offer their comments and suggestions. And I think it's another great service that we can provide to the constituents.
Thank you, Senator. Again, we hope to see this happen again in the future, and good evening.